Okay, with our figure, at this point, um, it would be possible to stop. However, there's two problems with stopping at this point. Number one is we have grid lines here. Now, grid lines most of the time aren't necessary. They add to the clutter of the figure. So if you look at the figure that I made here over to the left, it's nice and clean. Inside the plot area, you just have blank white background with the data points superimposed on top of that white background. This is really super clear to see. And if you compare that to this unfinished figure here on the right, we still have those grid lines. Grid lines, you may see in Microsoft Excel or on your computer screen, but actually when you print them, they'll disappear anyway, and you won't see them. And if you make grid lines dark enough to see when you print them, again, it'll take away from the data and the pattern of the data that you want to see in the first place. So it's usually best to just remove grid lines altogether. There's several ways to do it. Again, click on the chart, go to chart design, and under add chart elements, you can go to grid lines and you can turn those off. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to click this little plus symbol here and just uncheck this box for grid lines, and it turns them all off. Okay. So we turned off the grid lines. Now, the next thing we need to change, this is the second point, is you'll notice that here the markers, which denote each of these data points, are small blue dots. So two problems with this. One, they're in color. So we want to convert this to black and white. And these dots are really small. And if we shrink this down, we could actually make it so the dots almost disappear altogether and we wouldn't see the data points. So we want to make them black and we want to make them larger. Okay. So how do we do that? So, if you do not have this sidebar, just click on the chart and just right click and choose Format Chart Area. Okay, that'll bring this up again. But in order to change the formatting of these data points, of these markers, just click on one of them. And you see now it says Format Data Series. And there's an option here that says Marker. So if we click Marker, now we have marker options. Now, what we want to do is we want to change the size of the marker, but it's ghosted. It's ghosted because it's set for automatic. So if we change the marker option from automatic to built-in, this is where we could actually change the shape of the marker if we wanted to. But we're going to leave it as a circle, and we can increase the size. So I'm going to increase it to maybe a size of maybe 9 or 10. So that looks sufficiently large. We'll leave it at that. And now, again, if I change the shape of the marker, it becomes a little maybe more apparent than what I showed you before. That does not look good. So you want to choose something, a marker shape that's easy to read. Those are not easy. Square looks just too much like a blob. Circles are pretty good default points. Okay, so we have the shape, we have the size down. Now we have to change the color. So what we can do is click on fill. And so we want to have a solid fill, and we want to make sure that it is black. And if you wanted to have a border color, right now it's blue. I don't know if you could see it in the recording, but there is a blue border around each of those data points. If we set it from blue to white, then actually that would kind of show you how each point is separate from others. So if they overlap, you can see that points are overlapping. That's one way to do it. You could also kind of see that points are overlapping if you change the transparency on the fill. So the fill color is solid, it is black, but if we change the transparency to maybe 50%, like that, now you can actually see that some points are overlapping. And that's what I did over here on the left-hand side. But on the left-hand side, I had a border that was black and not white. So let me set that back to black. And now that becomes a lot easier to read. So at this point, we now have a figure that is really simple and easy to read. Everything is nicely formatted. And by formatting it this way, it looks professional, it looks presentable. You can use this in PowerPoint slides. You could use this in, typewritten reports, articles that you're preparing, research papers that you're doing. And yeah, this is personally a format that I've used in my professional career, which works. All right, so that concludes the formatting of a scatter plot.